Most of you think that I'm in a sour mood, that I spent all of yesterday crying because Caitlin Clark got beat by the Chicago Sky, and Angel Reese had a phenomenal basketball game. Many of you think I'm heartbroken. I'm not. What happened yesterday was awesome for Caitlin Clark, for Angel Reese, for the WNBA, for me, for this show, for those of us that still care about sports and like talking about sports. What happened yesterday was absolutely awesome. I'll explain. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me. We have a great show planned for you today. We also have some extra content planned for you today. For those of you that are Blaze TV subscribers, you can catch me and Shamika Michelle talking about Jamal Bowman and AOC, that meltdown in the Bronx, that stupidity that we saw over the weekend. We're going to show them who the F we are. And, you know, Jamal Bowman acting like a desperate congressman that knows he's about to be primaried, acting like a rapper. Shamika Michelle and I will talk about it. You got to be a Blaze TV subscriber to get that extra Fearless content. Go to blazetv.com /Fearless. Use the promo code Fearless, and you can save $20 on your yearly subscription and get all of that extra content. Also today, we have a fantastic show planned for you today. We're going to talk about my girl, Caitlin Clark, and Angel Reese and the WNBA. We'll start there, but we'll also dig into this Michael Jordan, LeBron James controversy. Have you been following that? Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Did I mention it last week? Tom Haberstroh. I can't, the days all kind of run together, but Tom Haberstroh and Yahoo Sports published a piece about the 1988 season and how perhaps the statistics were manipulated in the defensive category so that Michael Jordan could win Defensive Player of the Year. That has reignited the LeBron versus Michael Jordan GOAT debate. We'll get into that with Jay Skapinac and with Steve Kim. But we're going to start today talking about the WNBA and why I love it so much. And this episode is brought to you by our good friends at Good Ranchers. Use my promo code FEARLESS at goodranchers.com, and with your subscription, you can claim $100 off plus free smoked brats for a year while supporting veterans this Independence Day. It's time to revolt and reclaim your independence from grocery store meat aisles. All right, let's get to today's topic of the day and why I'm so thrilled. And I legitimately am. Was I expecting Angel Reese to do what she did yesterday? No, I was not. I was not expecting her to go 25-16. I was not expecting her to lead a furious 15-point comeback and knock off the Indiana Fever. I was not expecting that. But it's awesome that it happened. It's awesome that it happened. We now have a legitimate rivalry. Angel Reese got backed into a corner and performed at the highest level. That may be the best basketball game she's ever played in her life. And look, she may have had better numbers in college. She may have put up incredible numbers in high school. Who knows? But she ain't ever had 2.5 million, 3 million people watching her play basketball and having backed herself up against the wall, knowing that if she got beat again and she had a subpar performance against Caitlin Clark, it was going to be a wrap for Angel Reese. People were going to be piling on her over social media. I would have been piling on her over social media. But because she was backed up against the wall and because she is a competitor, we now have a little bit of a clearer picture of who Angel Reese is capable of being. I'm not saying that's who she is, but we now know who she's capable of being. And that's a great competitor who will be an alternative, not just a skin color alternative to Caitlin Clark, but an alternative basketball performer to Caitlin Clark and take this rivalry to the next level. I like competition. I like narratives. I like stories to follow. People are sitting here thinking, oh, Whitlock, he just likes Caitlin Clark because she's white. I like good stories. I like Caitlin Clark for the same reason I love Tiger Woods, for the same reason I love Magic Johnson. I like a great story. I like new things. I like exciting things. This rivalry that we can now call a rivalry, I'm telling you, it wasn't looking like one, because that's whatever went on in college. Trust me, the talent disparity, LSU and Iowa, was so immense. I don't put much stock into that national championship that Angel Reese was a part of. I'm not going to say Angel Reese carried LSU to a national championship. She was a part of it. But now here in the WNBA, we got the real deal. We have, it ain't Magic versus Larry Bird, but it is something. It is something now. Angel Reese legitimized that and made me have to admit I've got a new perspective on her as a competitor. People are throwing up in my face that I called her unskilled and one of the most overrated athletes in all of sports. Maybe overcooked the overrated thing. I will admit that. But as far as unskilled, I'm not backing off of any of that. But what I saw from Angel Reese yesterday was someone who knows exactly who she is and knows exactly how she needs to play if she wants to play at a high level. And instead of yesterday taking the court thinking and worrying about and trying to compete with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese took the court and said, you know what? I'm a dog in this low post, and I'm going to take this Nylisa Smith straight to hell. And I'm going to see if she can handle that heat down here. It was the way Angel Reese worked to establish position in the low post so that there was nothing Nylisa Smith could do with her. She had established position so strong, there was nothing she could do. Now, did the Indiana Fever and Christy Sides help her out? Absolutely. Because at some point you should have realized, like, Nylisa Smith is just getting her lunch taken. She's, as Shaq likes to say, just barbecue chicken in that low. Let me put Aaliyah Boston and to slow this fire down with Angel Reese. Let me put Aaliyah Boston on her, and I'll live with whatever Camila Cardoso does. If Cardoso takes us out, we'll live with that. But this energy that Angel Reese is providing in the Chicago Sky, we got to cut that off. And so I can't do anything but tip my hat to Angel Reese. She's got a higher basketball IQ than I thought she did. She understands the limitations in her game. She knows exactly how she needs to play to be at the top of her game. She's not an outside shooter. She's not going to put it on the floor and take it to the hoop. She's a slasher, a cutter, a rebounder. Feed me the ball. I'm going to establish area in the post about 4 feet away from the basketball. Get me the ball, and I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to throw it towards the basket, and it'll go in, and that's that. Hats off to Angel Reese for being self-aware enough and focused enough. Took all of her attention off of Caitlin Clark and focused all of it on Nylisa Smith. They were barking at each other, talking trash to each other. It was great to watch. Awesome to watch. And then after the game, when she's talking to Holly Rowe, I'm like, oh, yeah, I like this. She knows exactly who she is. Let's play the clip.
Well, Angel, your team was down by 15 points, and you personally started the run that won this game. How do you find this in you each and every time to be such a winner?
I'm a dog. You can't teach that. I'm going to go out and do whatever it takes to win, and every single night, my teammates rely on my energy. So being able to continue the energy, even if we're down, even if we're up, that's what I do.
So, and I say this, and people are going to get upset with me. I don't care. This is facts. That 25-16 you saw yesterday, and all the people that started tweeting at me and, you know, Whitlock, blah, blah, blah. Y'all need to be thanking me. Y'all did, because I got that out of Angel Reese. Y'all need to be sending me gift cards and flowers and bouquets and like, hey, Whitlock, thank you. Thank you. You're the only person man enough to call out Angel Reese and criticize her and bring out the dog in her, talk some sense into her, bring some reality to Angel Reese. All of that butt kissing and nurturing and all that, oh, she's the greatest, and all that anointing y'all were doing was making her feel like a victim and was going to ruin her. And so if you want to know why, and there were some people making fun of Angel Reese after the game because she went into the stands or into the audience and had this long hug with Cheryl Swopes after the game. You would have thought they had just won the WNBA championship or the NCAA championship. You would have thought that, I mean, something significant had happened. She won a regular season game against Caitlin Clark. The picture's fine, but they had a long, like 1 minute embrace after this game. That's me putting that pressure on Angel Reese. She knew that there was so much attention focused on her that if she came up short in this game and they lost, or if she had played poorly, it was curtains. We brought out the dog in Angel Reese by criticizing her. This is what athletes respond to: criticism. Criticism is a good thing. All the people running around, oh my God, jumping in front of every criticism. Oh, that's racist. That's racist. Don't you understand? She's a victim. She's not getting the credit she deserves. All of them people, you're crippling Angel Reese and all these other athletes. You're not helping them. You're crippling them. Criticism is spinach. It's vegetables. It does a body good. It does the mind good. It puts pressure on competitors and makes them go to the next level. That's what happened to Angel Reese. This is great. It's no different. Same thing's going to happen with Caitlin Clark on the other side. How Caitlin Clark turned down that shot at the end and passed that ball to Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, cut it out. Don't let them girls talk you up out of who you are. You see, that's what happened yesterday. Angel Reese, me and some other people that have criticized her, we talked her into being who she is. I'm a dog. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And if that's me down in the low post rebounding, if that's me establishing position within 4 feet of the basket and making them give me the ball, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to put it on the floor and hit 3-pointers. I'm not Candace Parker. I'm not Aaliyah Boston. I'm a dog in this low post, and you got to deal with me. That's who Angel Reese is. And Caitlin Clark has to accept who she is. She's a great playmaker, the best playmaker the WNBA women's basketball has ever seen. But at the end of the day, she's a scorer. And no way, with a chance to win that game and put that dagger, you can't pass that hot potato to Aaliyah Boston. Don't let them talk, oh, you got to show you're a team player. Don't let the little jealous teammates you got, Kelsey Mitchell, don't let them talk you into going away from who you are. You're a shooter. You're a scorer. Now, I do want you to quit taking the deepest threes that you can take and sometimes take, some non-3-point shots. That mid-range game you have to work on if you want to be the best player you can be. But Caitlin Clark came out of her personality, sharing the ball too much, and what she's going to have to figure out is she's playing with a bunch of several women who can't handle what she can see. Caitlin Clark's vision is so unique in women's basketball. Her teammates can't figure out and they just can't, like, oh my God, How did the ball end up here, right in my hands? I couldn't envision that. I wasn't expecting that. I don't even know what to do with this. I want to show you, and these are just a handful. There's 3 or 4 other plays, passes, where it's just like they don't know what to do with Caitlin Clark because she can see things that they can't see, and that ball is showing up in their hands in places they weren't expecting, and they don't know what to do with it. Play a little compilation of blown Caitlin Clark passes.
Goes back to Allen. Nice look from Clark, and Wallace can't finish the lay.
They look for one another.
Here's Clark shoveling. Boston waits. Can't finish. 3 defender. Clark bounces ahead. Oh, what a pass! Mitchell unable to finish. 3 seconds left in the half. The flick ahead from Clark. And again, Kelsey Mitchell just having trouble catching the ball.
Kelsey Mitchell's running and just like, oh, there's no way I'm going to get this pass. And it shows up, and she doesn't know what to do. She's flummoxed. Turnover on Caitlin Clark. There was a little white girl, maybe Samuelson. It's on the possession, maybe where Aaliyah Boston hit the 3-point shot. I can't remember, but Caitlin Clark passed the ball to Samuelson or Wallace or one of the little white girls on the wing at the end of the game. And the little white girl tried to shoot a reverse layup, and it was terrible. But it's like there's a panic that sets in. Oh, Caitlin's passed me the ball. I got to do something. When maybe all you need to do is pull back and look for Caitlin to see if she can get a pull-up 3. That's Kelsey Mitchell, got that long bounce pass. No way she can make that reverse layup. Just dribble it back out to the 3-point line. Set it up wait for the rest of your teammates. But they're all trying to do too much because Caitlin Clark can do so much. They're trying to do too much because Caitlin Clark can do so much. She can spot them, hit them with passes that they're just not ready with. This one right here, the long bounce, just dribble it out to the 3-point line. You can't do that. I know Caitlin's dropped you that dime, but it's just too much. They got to get Kelsey Mitchell off the team, to be honest with you. She's playing a completely different game than everybody else on the court for the Indiana Fever. She can't adjust. The coach is in over her head as well through no fault of her own. A white woman trying to coach Caitlin Clark in the WNBA with a predominantly black woman roster, that's a match made in hell. It cannot work. It's unsustainable. She can't, if she tells them properly what to do, you got a few of them women in there, they're going to revolt and call her racist and just say you're catering everything to Caitlin Clark. They're going to play the race card on her. I think they got to have a black male coach. They got to find a Mark Jackson, someone like that to coach that team. He can go in there and tell them hey, look, this is the way we're playing. We got Caitlin Clark here. This is what we got to do. Call me racist all you want. Call me sexist, whatever. But we're going to call me an Uncle Tom. I don't care. We're going to play through Caitlin Clark. We're going to play a way that makes sense for her. Aaliyah Boston, I got to have you working with me. Don't take any more phone calls from Don Staley. I know that was your coach in college. I know you love her, but now you're in the WNBA. Put Don Staley on. Put her calls on silent. We're doing something completely different here. Anyway, I'm happy that there is a rivalry between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. I think this is great for me. I think it's great for all more to talk about. What else are we going to talk about during the NBA season's over? We're still waiting on the NFL. This is great content. These women going at it. Is it the prettiest basketball? No, but it's a great story. It's a great story. And I came up with this over the weekend. Show white is what I'm calling Caitlin Clark. And I'm calling, instead of the evil queen, I'm calling Angel Reese the envy queen. She's very envious of Caitlin Clark. And she got one off on Caitlin yesterday, and hats off to her, more power to her. We'll continue to watch and talk and analyze it all. The people that thought I'm going to be here angry and I'm depressed and, oh, Whitlock looks like a fool. Nah, I really don't. I look like someone who's pretty content with what's going on because at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark's a better player. She's the reason everyone's watching. It's great that Angel Reese can, ride her coattails to some relevancy and some fame. But at the end of the day, we know who the show is. Caitlin Clark. She's like Tiger Woods. Before we bring in Steve Kim, get his thoughts on this, I want to talk to you about our great friends at Preborn. You guys know why we support Preborn. We talk about it constantly on this show. Preborn supports and believes in our worldview that life begins at conception. There's no organization that supports that worldview better than Preborn. They provide ultrasounds to expectant mothers who are considering abortion. When that mother hears that baby's heartbeat, sees that image in the womb, she is now more than twice as likely to choose life. And that's when Preborn steps in and steps up. They provide that woman the support she needs through the pregnancy and through the first 2 years of that baby's life outside of the womb. Preborn is awesome. You guys, I've introduced you all to Dan Steiner. Dan Steiner and Preborn sponsored Roll Call 2.0. We had him on stage. We talked to him. Our money's not being wasted. We're not sending it off so some mid-level executive can have some vacation down in Florida or some vacation overseas somewhere. It's not a bunch of overpaid mid-level executives. The money actually goes to fund ultrasounds. It costs $28 for an ultrasound. 5 ultrasounds cost $140. So whether you give $28, $140, $140,000, it goes to fund and finance ultrasounds. And that's the supplies that a mother needs during the first 2 years of that baby's life outside of the womb. 2 ways to give. Pound 250, say the keyword baby. Pound 250, say the keyword baby. Or you can give the way I prefer to give. Preborn.com/fearless. That's preborn.com/fearless. The reason I look, and you can do it either way. You can call, you can Preborn, but you can set up a monthly giving like I have and like many of our listeners have. Thank you guys so much for those of you that have supported Preborn and sent me email messages telling me about how much you thank me and thank Preborn for the work that they're doing. I appreciate you all that let me know that you've done it. fearlessblazeshow@gmail.com. Keeps me inspired, keeps me motivated. Thank you so much. Steve Kim, just around the corner. Okay, let's NBA players. There's 450 of them, I think. 450. Is LeBron in the top 150?
Nope.
Middle 300?
Nope.
Or bottom 150?
Yeah.
And I would say he's in the bottom 150.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
Bottom of this era. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, my.
He has a tremendous amount of talent, and that's brought him a tremendous amount of wealth. And so he gets to pretend to be a business mogul.
I had one coach, and he used to say, put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable.
Oh, yeah, that's my favorite saying. That's my favorite saying.
Read his tweets. Read the things that he said. He put up a picture of a cop who stopped a woman from killing another young woman, and he basically said, let's target this cop. How smart do you think that person is?
You're not very bright, are you?
If you like today's show, you're going to love the merchandise we have for the entire show. Go to shopblazemedia.com today, and you can check out everything from our Fearless Army t-shirts, hats, and dog tags to our God, Country, and Truth Bomb shirts, and a whole lot more. Of course, there's all the other Blaze Media merchandise right there at your fingertips as well. Everything from Blaze Heritage and Blaze Media collections, jackets, t-shirts, hoodies, socks, and mugs. There's so much there you're going to love. Go to shopblazemedia.com, check out my merchandise as well as everything else, and be sure to use my promo code JASON10 to get 10% off your entire order. That's shopblazemedia.com, promo code Jason10 for 10% off. Do it today.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back, Steve Kim. Angel Reese got a huge victory. She won a regular season game against Caitlin Clark and celebrated like she had won the national championship. Your thoughts?
Well, by that reaction, did she win the Swoops Cup? Old Cheryl was pretty happy. I mean, I'm not exactly the biggest WNBA guy, but I'm thinking, was that the seventh game of something? Look, Angel Reese is very productive. She seems to be coming on. In fact, dare I say, based on what was said last week on this fine program, is she now becoming a tad underrated? I'm not sure. We're going to have to hold on. But Jason, I looked at the box scores. Caitlin Clark only had 11 shots. I don't know. I mean, last week you compared her to Isaiah Thomas. I do know this. When Isaiah Thomas needed to be the scorer, he was. And I'll tell you two things about Isaiah Thomas that I'll never forget. And I have as much respect for him as you do as a player. There was this Game 5, back when it was a 5-game series in the first round, it was in 1984. He literally scored like 16 points in like 70 seconds against the Knicks. Him and Bernard King had this unbelievable duel. I think the game was at the Cobo Arena because the other venues in Detroit were booked. I've never seen anything like it. Then, Game 6 at the Forum, 1988 NBA Finals. My Lakers are battling for their lives. And Isaiah nearly took away my back-to-back championship. He hit shots over Michael Cooper on one ankle that I have never seen. It is. I'm just telling you, I have so much respect for what Zeke did, but there was an understanding. Yes, he's our point guard, but when Isaiah wants the ball and shoot it, we're going to get out of his way. I'm just telling you this again, Jason. They need to revamp that whole roster, get a new coach, and if you are not Caitlin Clark friendly, GTFOH. Yeah, I said it.
Here's what I'll say happened yesterday, though, Steve, and what's been going on their. They had a winning streak going on at home, and maybe it was a 4-game overall win streak. They're playing, the lower half of the NBA, and everybody's involved offensively. Everybody, one game is Kelsey Mitchell, then and they're all sharing the ball, and everybody got comfortable. And yesterday they got comfortable because they dominated that game until the fourth quarter. They were up 15 playing a certain style that everybody, Caitlin wasn't shooting a lot. She was doing a lot more playmaking. She did hit some key threes and all that. But they had got comfortable with that, and they were winning with that. And then the fourth quarter came around, and they just kind of fell asleep, relaxed a bit, and the next thing you know, Chicago Sky caught fire, and Caitlin does have it in her head, I think, because of her teammates and trying to play politics, hey, I'm not going to be a ball hog. And part of that is because Caitlin hasn't figured out. Because I'm telling you, when they go to film session and you look at Caitlin's shots, a lot of times she takes bad shots. Some of the three-pointers she takes are too far out, and they're just bad shots. If she were missing some twos, it wouldn't look as bad when they're in film session. When you're missing long threes, it looks greedy, and so we couldn't get anything better than that. And so if you're knocking down 35% of your long threes, but you're almost never shooting the mid-range game, it just looks different and comes off different. And so she's trying to placate her teammates and trying to share the ball because she hasn't perfected yet or figured out yet. She's figured out most things, but she hasn't figured out how to incorporate the mid-range game into her game. Maybe she doesn't feel comfortable with it because any highlights you see of her in practice, she's always shooting long threes, but she's got to figure out that mid-range game. And yes, she should be taking 16 to 18 shots per game, but some of those have to be 18 to 20 footers. They can't all be 26, 27-foot three-pointers.
Well, it would be nice if her teammates gave her the ball back once in a while. They've actually charted this. When she brings up the ball, starts the offense, and she gives it to somebody, it doesn't come back. That's actually been proven statistically. 16 to 18 shots. Excuse me, Jason. If I'm spending good money to see the CNC Shot Factory, I need about 25 to 30. Okay? I'm not here to see wins and losses. I'm here to see one player. Okay? The bottom line is this. In certain situations, what was the old rule with Michael, Jeffrey, Jordan, and the triangle, especially in the beginning? Phil Jackson basically said, and Tex Winter talked him into it, Michael, can you at least run this triangle for 3 quarters? And if the game is close in the last 4 to 6 minutes, okay, we'll run the Jordan offense. And what was the Jordan offense? As Doug Collins once said, give the ball to Michael, everyone else get out the way. And this is the issue that I think that's going to have to be addressed. If she is going to be your Steve Nash, you better find her the Mike D'Antoni, because I'm kind of looking at this saying she is the best player with the ball, she's the best ball distributor, and she's the best shooter. So why are you minimizing her? Like, I'm seeing some of these turnovers. Jason, I don't want to be disparaging, but you know what's going to come. These girls catch these passes like they're Edward Scissorhands. It's like they've never actually seen a really good pass, and they treat that thing like the cooties. She's in a no-win situation. I'm being serious about this. They need to actually do a breakdown of every single one of her turnovers and actually determine how many were actually good passes that were fumbled away.
Steve, let me deal with your Jordan analogy, and like, you want her to be a volume shooter and scorer.
Yes.
Here's it. It's not a possibility right now in the WNBA, because if she goes the way she's playing, if she goes that route right now in the WNBA, they're not going to win very many games at all. And I'll tell you why. Michael Jordan, there wasn't a spot on the court where he wasn't a potential threat to score. Caitlin Clark is a potential threat to score outside of the three-point line, usually 3 feet behind it, and at the rim. That's, if they charted where her baskets are coming from, it's a layup at the rim or it's a 24 to 27-foot shot. The rest of the court, she's not a threat on. She has to make herself a threat on the. Okay. It's easier to defend her if all you got to do is defend her at the rim and defend her behind the arc.
Jason, you are absolutely right. And I've actually seen some videos where people talk about her lack of a mid-range. So in the offseason, in addition to getting a Bowflex, taking creatine, she needs to work on her pull-up jumper. And a move that I think she should incorporate, because I think it would be good for her game, since she's not, I would call, a high flyer. None of these ladies are. The old Mark Jackson teardrop. He was unbelievable at not blowing past this guy, but getting towards the lane and just kind of like lobbing it up for a shot. That can work for her, but it's going to take a full off season. But Jason, to your point, I'm being a little hyperbolic when I say 25 to 30, and she should just shoot the ball every time. But that ball needs to be in her hands regardless, 50 times more than it is, because she actually creates good shots for her teammates. Now, a lot of her teammates aren't good enough to finish. And the one thing that I've noticed about the WNBA, and this is not a knock, but it's the truth, they don't finish very well at the rim, in the paint, because they don't play above the rim. I see a lot of bricks being laid from 4 feet in, but Caitlin Clark still creates better shots for her teammates than anyone on that Fever roster by far. This whole thing where she brings the ball up and she passes it, and then she's stuck in right field by herself, it's ridiculous. And at a certain point, that falls on coaching or a lack thereof.
Well, I'm going to get myself into trouble, but herding cats is difficult, and that's what she's trying to do, the coach. I think the coach should be fired. I really do. I think she's in over her head.
I'm with you.
But I think she's it, but I am just keeping it real. This is a white woman trying to talk black women into playing the right way alongside a white woman. It's very difficult.
Jason,
here's someone needs, yeah.
You're absolutely right. I guarantee you that coach, in the last 3 minutes of a game, when she's drawing something up, and since she doesn't exactly have the cachet of a Phil Jackson, when she's drawing something up, she's thinking, okay, all right, Kelsey Mitchell, this is your play. We're going to do this. This is right here. This is affirmative action. Here we go. And because there's an old phrase in coaching, in certain situations, you do not think plays, you think players. And they're completely missing that on the Indiana Fever.
Here's what they're missing, Steve, and this is why it's fascinating. And it's just the difference between the men's game and the women's game and just racial dynamics and all this that's at play here. So take the bad boy Pistons, Isaiah Thomas or whatever. Trust me, Rick Mahorn, John Sally,
Lambeer,
Dennis Rodman, Lambeer, they knew, hey, Isaiah's our leader, and there's certain things we're going to have to do in service to Isaiah being our leader. There's some screens we're going to have to set. There's a level of toughness we're going to have to play with for Isaiah and for this whole thing to work. No different than in Boston, they surrounded Larry Bird with a group of guys that would allow him to play the way they did, would give themselves up selflessly to set screens and all that other stuff. There's no one there on it because someone needs to take that Nylisa Smith because she's got the body for it. It's like, hey, you are the enforcer for Caitlin Clark. You run around and you set screens and make sure everybody knows you got Caitlin Clark's back and you're there to get her open looks for shots. That would be Nylisa Smith's best role. And that's not the role she's playing, though, because she would be offended by that because she's dating Honey DeJournay Carrington over in whatever team, Connecticut she's playing with. She can't stand Caitlin Clark. She likes playing with her because Caitlin Clark throws her nice passes. But in terms of sacrificing for Caitlin Clark, not going to happen. It's not. And there's no white female coach that's going to get that out of her.
Jason, couple things. Larry Bird and Isaiah were also surrounded by other great shooters. I mean, Isaiah and Joe Dumars, what a great combo. But they also had Vinnie Johnson and Bill Laimbeer. For all the thuggery he did, he was the original stretch four in my view. That guy had three-point range. So you can do a lot of different things. You look at the Celtics, Danny Ainge, dead-eye shooter, Scott Wedman, Jerry Sheasting, Dennis Johnson. So you are going to have to get another shooter because as they blitz and they double-team Caitlin has enough basketball IQ. She makes the right read. We go back to the Iverson comparison that we kind of talked about a little bit last week. Again, if you look at that 2001 championship team that lost to the Lakers, every other player was a role player that understood what's my job? To basically placate Iverson, Aaron McKee, Eric Snow, Matt Geiger, Theo Ratliff before he got traded. So you need to get some tough people. You need to get some people that are going to throw their bodies around. And you're going to have to get at least one more shooter to really maximize the potential of Caitlin Clark. And I'm just going to say it again. That coach, I would have her profile and her resume on LinkedIn. She wouldn't be the Indiana Fever coach if it was up to me.
Let's move on to the other topic that stirred a lot of conversation late last week and over the weekend and on even into today. Tom Haberstroh's piece on Yahoo Sports that went after Michael Jordan's 1988 Defensive Player of the Year award. I'm going to stick to my guns. I've read the entire piece. I think it's a compelling piece of journalism by Haberstroh. I do think they've kind of muddied the waters in terms of, and I probably should have asked for the clip, but I tried not to go here too much because but the Nick Wright character on Fox Sports that basically said he was a consultant on the piece and that really, really damages the legitimacy of the piece because Nick Wright is a LeBron James homer. Some people, Doug Gottlieb has argued he's represented by Clutch Sports. He's represented by LeBron, James, or Rich Paul, that group. That dirties it up. And now I've seen some other people go back and forth about this whole, was Michael Jordan getting steals that he didn't get by the home stat guy? Some of that made sense to me. I could see that happening. I could see the home stat guy favoring someone like Michael Jordan. They made a pretty compelling argument in the deal. They also went back and looked at old newspaper stories where the Detroit Pistons in 1988, 1989, they were complaining that, Jordan's stats were juiced a bit that year. He was getting steals. Scottie Pippen has made accusations that, some of Jordan's stats were padded. Steals that Scottie had were credited to Jordan. Some of that made sense to me, particularly just being transparent. You guys know Isaiah Thomas is someone that I'm close to and that I respect a lot. He's had a lot of suspicions about what all the league did to create the Michael Jordan myth. The Detroit Pistons always made that argument for years. Last point, then I'll shut up here and let you speak. At this point, I'm of the position that if they padded Jordan's stats, it's no different than how LeBron James has padded the arguments about him. He's got all these media people that he manipulates, perhaps is put on payroll, perhaps Clutch Sports represents, that sit out here and argue this silliness that LeBron's resume is better than Jordan's resume. And so if Jordan had his stats padded in 1988, I've sat and listened the last decade to listen to people pad the aura of LeBron James for money and clout. Shannon Sharp, Nick Wright, these guys sit on TV and just build up LeBron James to this unbelievable character that he's just not. And so, at the end of the day right now, I'm like, this is much ado about nothing.
Okay, so a couple things here. Shout out to Charles Shabransky at Dreamers Pro. Another great YouTube channel, keeps me updated on all the NBA stuff. He's actually debunked a lot of this, and he's talked about how Nick Wrong is basically a Clutch Sports publicist. He's a flack. And yeah, this article had Clutch Sports written all over it. The fingerprints are very, very evident. And I saw a clip where Nick Wright talked about like the acolytes of Michael Jordan and the jock sniffers. Nick, that's the pot calling the kettle black. Because when it comes to LeBron, that's like Milli Vanilli talking about another group not having authentic performances in concert. Really, I'm just like, you of all the people, you're the last guy that should be talking about hero worship. Here's the interesting thing. On Twitter, it's set off like a war. And it's funny because now a lot of people are looking back at LeBron James's games and doing the exact same thing. And you know what's funny, Jason? It turns out his stats are actually inflated when it comes to several statistical things like assists and steals. There's always been this notion, and I think it was well known, the home team scorekeepers would be a little bit more favorable. But let's go back to particularly in 88 when he won the Defensive Player of the Year. If you look at the other metrics, Michael Jordan was the best defensive player. In fact, he's the best defensive player for several years. People have broken this down. Now, I don't really look at the stats, but I will say this about Jordan. The greatness of him is that he did so many other things as good as anyone that I've ever seen that had nothing to do with scoring or shooting or anything like that. He had the quickest feet defensively that I've ever seen. He could pick up a guy 94 feet and just stifle him. He had the best hands in terms of being able to pickpocket people and rip the ball out. He's also the best shot blocking two guard I've ever seen. He's the only guy I've ever seen go in the cylinder as he rotates over. He would challenge big men and protect the rim. He's the best flyby help defender I've ever seen. Ask Patrick Ewing how many times on a turnaround jumper he got that thing swatted. No one else did that to that level. And Michael Jordan had the greatest anticipation of the passing lanes I've ever seen off the wing. Don't let the stats or how they're ever manipulated fool you. When you watch Michael Jordan play, you have to actually know what you're looking at. Fortunately, which I do, he's the best two guard I've ever seen by far.
So, I'm just for transparency or just for clarity, throughout Michael Jordan's career, his playing career, I was a Michael Jordan critic, and I was not. I called him hot air. I'm a Magic Johnson homer. He was my favorite athlete.
Me too.
And he's my favorite. And so I was very protective of Magic's legacy, and I wanted Magic to go down as the greatest player of all time. As soon as Michael Jordan quit playing, and basically, you know, that was, and really, yeah, it was when Michael Jordan quit playing, but to some degree, it was when Magic quit playing. But as soon as Michael Jordan quit playing, all of my biases and all that fan stuff just went out the window, and I just respected what Michael Jordan accomplished and gave him his due as the greatest player I'd ever seen. And so all of, you know, during the 80s, early 90s, when he was competing against Magic, couldn't really get me on board. And early in my journalism career, couldn't get me on board. I called him hot air. And so I'm not some Michael Jordan homer. And I watch the Jordan people and the LeBron people go at each other. I like to think of myself as more objective. And it's just clear as day to me, this whole GOAT thing is drummed up. LeBron James is not in the same class as Michael Jordan, period. End of story. LeBron James is, in my view, in a class with Magic and Bird, just on a different level from Michael Jordan. The other thing I would add, just responding off something you said, the two best defenders I feel like I've ever seen in NBA basketball are Scottie Pippen and Dennis Johnson. And part of that is probably my bias, again, because those were the two guys I hated for Magic Johnson to be matched up against. They drove Magic crazy. I never remember, and maybe he did, but I just don't remember Michael ever taking on Magic. I always remember it being Scottie Pippen. Those are the two best defenders I ever saw.
No Rodman.
Disagree that
no Rodman.
Michael was.
Rodman could guard every position, though.
Yeah, I agree. But
now, Jason,
Pippen and Dennis Johnson, and again, it's part of my bias. They gave Magic fits. Yeah.
Jason, I'll just say this. In 1984, that summer, I'll never forget, I hadn't really seen that much of Jordan because I didn't watch that much North Carolina basketball. I just saw clips. That Olympic team went on an 8-game exhibition against the NBA Players Association. That team, a bunch of U.S. Olympians led by Bob Knight, went 8-0. And by the middle of that tour, the Players Association was getting very upset that the pros were getting beat by these kids. And they started loading up the teams with McHale, Magic, Bird, Isaiah. You know who was the best player literally every game? Jordan. And that's when Bob Knight said that's the greatest player ever. Before he played an NBA game, he actually said that. There's video of it. Now, Jason, I was with you all the way up till 90 to 91 because I'm a Laker fan in recess, but I was a passionate Laker fan. And I would get into these heated arguments, and I'd say Magic is a better player. He's a team player. Michael's a ball hog. And also, my guy has 5 championships. Okay, summer of 1991. We're tied 1-1. We're going into the Forum. And I'm thinking, no, don't worry. Now we're at the Forum. Lakers going to clean this out. I'll never forget Game 3. The Lakers were up big in the fourth. The Bulls come back, and they're down by 1 with about 11 seconds to go. They have the ball on the other side. And I remember thinking, hey, Dunleavy, you got to get the ball out of Jordan's hands. You know it's going to Jordan. What did Jordan do? He brings the ball up. Byron Scott's on him, and Vlade closes out really well. Jordan hits this immaculate pull-up. Game goes to overtime, actually. And then they win it. And I had the feeling it's over. In that series, games 4 and 5, the way Jordan dominated, there was this one particular play where Jordan steals the ball off the wing and he does the kiss the rim dunk, which was one of his trademarks. And I remember watching it as a kid. I can still remember, I go, that is the best player. I had to admit it. I had to admit it. And then in game 5, he showed his greatness and his maturity. Because remember who really hit the big shots that game? It was John Paxson. And the reason why is very simple. Jordan told Paxson, hey, I'm driving, you be ready. Hit like 6 shots in a row, all set up by Jordan, who, by the way, in that series, basically came very close to a triple-double. No one made a big deal about it. It's Jordan. We got to stop overthinking this. He is our Babe Ruth, and we are lucky to have witnessed that guy play, and I say that as a Laker fan. End of story. There is no discussion.
Steve, I'm going to let Skapinac in on this discussion.
Yes, that's an expert.
Thank you so much.
Expert. Love that guy.
Thank you. Good job as always. Thank you so much. Hey guys, you have an opportunity if you're a Blaze TV subscriber to check out the documentary work of Sarah Gonzalez and the Blaze Originals team as they do some research in Michigan on voter fraud. Voter Fraud Explained, how elections can be stolen. You got to be a Blaze TV subscriber to see this work. It is amazing. Voter Fraud Exposed, how elections can be stolen. Sarah, the Blaze Originals team, they go down to Michigan, take a look at the corruption going on in Michigan, spell it all out for you in ways that you can see how this could play out across the country. But you got to be a Blaze TV subscriber to get this, to see this work. So use the promo code VOTERFRAUD at blazeoriginals.com/Whitlock to get $30 off an annual subscription to Blaze TV. That's blazeoriginals.com/Whitlock. Voter fraud to get $30 off an annual subscription to Blaze TV. You'll have access to all the great documentary work that we do, all the extra content that we produce here at Fearless and on our other shows. Become a Blaze TV subscriber today. Jay Skapinac, next.
It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
Welcome back to Beef. As I walk you through my top 50 media beefs of all time. Yeah, I'm an equal opportunity beefer. It's like, Randy, are you asleep at the wheel? Big lips are in style. I'd love to squash this beef. I mean, I was not real happy at all. I was less than thrilled. I was displeased. And now we have beef. All right, let's roll out to Florida and bring in our man, Jay Skapinac. Jay, there is a controversy brewing between bronzesexuals, LeBron James supporters, and Michael Jordan supporters over this whole 1988 Defensive Player of the Year award. And Jordan's fraudulent. They padded his stats. There's some of it I think I agree with. I could see this Rosenberg or Rosie, I think it was the stat keeper that was there from, I think, 1965 up until 2023 maybe or whatever. I could see him being a homer and taking care of Michael Jordan. But I could also see all of these sycophants in the media today that are on the Clutch Sports payroll or trying to be in the good graces of LeBron James. In terms of narrative discussion, they've been bought and paid for and manipulated, no different than Rosie. And so I call the whole thing a wash, but I wanted a more professional opinion. What do you make of this controversy? Did Tom Haberstroh and Yahoo Sports, did they prove that Michael Jordan's 88 Defensive Player of the Year was illegitimate?
Well, Jason, before we really dig into the actual crux of the article or statistically analyze some pieces of it, I think it's important to note that Tom Haberstroh has been, and always will be a pathetic LeBron jocksniffer. He is one of these bronzesexuals, as you would put it. He's one of the primary card carriers, and he's been systematically hating on Michael Jordan for years, as has this entire pathetic sect of these LeBron jocksniffers, as I call them, the bronze sexuals, as you like to gloss them. Look, this has been going on for years, and it has been changing and taking different shapes and forms because, Jason, it's out of sheer and utter desperation that finally they've realized, they've come to admit to themselves that LeBron just isn't as good as Michael Jordan, never was, never will be. It doesn't matter how many more years he continues to play and pad his pathetic stats. They have finally started coming to the realization that LeBron cannot catch Michael Jordan. Therefore, what they started doing a few years ago was attacking Michael Jordan's level of competition. That's when we saw this narrative of the plumbers start rolling around. Oh, well, sure, Jordan won 6 championships out of 8 years and basically 6 straight in years that he played full NBA seasons in. Oh, but the competition was nowhere near as good, so we can't possibly compare these. Now we're digging into the statistical analysis of things that happened 40 years ago, trying to find any way possible to discredit Michael Jordan, to try to hoist LeBron up onto an even footing. And Jason, it's just not working. It's making them look more pathetic and more desperate. Did Haberstroh prove anything? I don't think so. Look, when you look at the actual home versus road stats, did he account for the fact that Michael Jordan averaged 3 more points per game at home versus away in 1988, that he shot 5 percentage points nearly from the field higher at home versus away? Maybe Jordan just played better at home than he did on the road in 1988.
Scap, walk me through, because all I know about Haberstroh is that he previously worked at ESPN, and again, I didn't follow his work closely, but my thoughts are that he was a solid NBA reporter and did solid NBA work. Maybe I wasn't paying close enough attention. What's your basis that he's a bronze sexual and always has been?
Well, Jason, I hate to paint the new wave of writers in this light, but the advanced analytics crowd. So basically all of the up and coming writers that have latched on to these advanced metrics, the win shares, box plus minus, player efficiency rating, value over replacement. That's kind of a new wave approach to analyze players. And pretty much if you are a champion, this is the way I view it. If you are a champion of the advanced metrics, you're basically trying to find a way to elevate LeBron James over the previous greats that dominated the standard form of the game and, actually have tangible accomplishments like winning championships. Now, the crazy thing about the advanced analytics crowd, though, is, Jason, Jordan is a better advanced player even than LeBron James. Like from a box plus minus standpoint, Jordan is higher than LeBron all time. Player efficiency rating, Jordan is higher than LeBron. Win share per 48 minutes. Jordan bests LeBron in that, both during the regular season and the playoffs. But, Haberstroh, even when you look at the viral article that we're discussing right now, that Haberstroh put out documenting the 1988 Defensive Player of the Year win by Michael Jordan. Look at that. I'm glad that you put it up on the screen. Look at the title. Has LeBron James been chasing a ghost? ? Like, he invokes LeBron in the very title. And that's because, one of the cliche or one of the things said about Jordan LeBron, LeBron will forever be chasing that ghost in Chicago. So right in the very, headline of this article, the title of it has LeBron James been chasing the ghost ? Or, his speculation throughout the article is that Jordan has just been systematically overrated and enhanced for some reason. And what that reason is, Jason, I don't know. What he's outlining in this article has to be a full-scale, league-wide kind of rig job of these stats. What possible reasons would the league have for elevating Michael Jordan to these levels back in 1988? It makes no sense.
I'll tell you what the motivation would be. Is, again, you build up, like sports has gone into this narrative of everything you're seeing now is historical and it's better than everything you've seen before. And so you had Magic and Larry, and it's like, well, we got to build the next thing. And so they're saying, and like Isaiah Thomas would make this argument, that like they had to build up something that eclipses that 1980s era. And it was Michael Jordan. And so we're going to convince everybody that this is something you've never seen before. Dr. J was never this as athletic. Larry Bird and Magic weren't winners the way that Michael were. They weren't as clutch as Michael were. And it was just this, hey, let's build the next thing. And they built this monstrosity, Michael Jordan. Keep in mind, I'm with you and virtually everybody with a brain. Michael Jordan is a legitimate monster that is the greatest thing that basketball has seen. People that I respect, though, like an Isaiah Thomas and some members of the Detroit Pistons, are like, Jason, you just don't understand how they changed all the rules to make it possible for Michael Jordan to be that monster. Because what the Pistons would say is like, no, we had Jordan figured out. We had a way to play Jordan that would beat them, and they took those tools away from us because they wanted Jordan to take this game to the next level. That would be the motivation.
Now, I agreed on maybe as Jordan got going, rolling downhill a little bit more into the early 90s, or we're talking 1988 though, Jason. Jordan hadn't won anything at that point. And honestly, the commentary at that time in the mid 80s, where Jordan was putting these gaudy individual statistical numbers down, he wasn't necessarily viewed in the same light as he is now. Of course he wasn't. Michael Jordan at that point kind of was LeBron James in the sense that he hadn't started winning championships. He hadn't put together the dynastic runs. So while Jordan's individual statistical dominance was ramping up, many critics of Jordan at the time would say, oh, but he's not the winner that Magic was. He's not the winner even that Larry was. And that was always the overall barometer of how we gauged all-time greatness, basically in every era and every decade of NBA history until LeBron James's era. I mean, Wilt Chamberlain was unbelievably more individually dominant than Bill Russell. If you look at the decade of the 1960s, Wilt Chamberlain doubled Bill Russell in points per game throughout that decade, but we generally regard Bill Russell as the owner of the 1960s because he was the winner. Just like, if you look at Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, quite frankly, Bird, from an individual standpoint, was better than Magic Johnson, but history regards Magic Johnson as the superior player. And systematically throughout history, we've held up winners. LeBron hasn't been a winner.
I've just been offended.
Who's been offended?
Me, Scap, and I love Larry Bird. You offended me. I love Larry Bird. I'm not someone that takes anything, but just an outright statement that Larry Bird was a better player than Magic Johnson is somewhat offensive to me, but I interrupted you for a different reason because I want to give you a different way to look at this. And I know you were providing great insight there, but I want to give you a different way to look at this. And this, I don't want to pawn this off on Isaiah Thomas. This is me. And just remember where I ended up landing. Michael Jordan is the greatest player. I'm not moving from that position. However, there is an argument that people don't understand that Nike actually is the most powerful force in all of sports and in basketball. And they got there through Michael Jordan. Nike is what drove the NBA to climb into full bed with Michael Jordan. And what Nike has always wanted, they had this whole international global dominance, and we're going to sell shoes in China. And we're going to build this economic engine, Nike, that's going to generate 40, 50 billion a year because we're going to sell shoes all over the globe, and we're going to do it with Michael Jordan. And Phil Knight convinced David Stern, if you want your league to ever surpass the NFL, you're not going to do it domestically. You got to do it internationally. And here's the horse we're going to ride. His name is Michael Jordan. We're going to ride that horse to this international acclaim. And one day we're going to get this contract from China for the NBA that's going to surpass any TV deal that you can get domestically. And Nike's going to sell so many. And so that would be the motivation. Let's ride. Because keep in mind, in the 80s, most guys were wearing Converse. Magic was wearing Converse. I think Bird was too. And Nike was ascending. And they had this vision of international dominance and riding Michael Jordan. And then they convinced David Stern, international game. That's where the growth is. That's where the money is. That would be the motivation into building up Michael Jordan. China and just an international game. And we're riding Michael Jordan to that. And so let's make sure that these rules work for Michael Jordan. That would be the argument.
Look, it's a fair point, but we're not excusing the marketability angle from, Jordan's immense commercial appeal and everything that Nike threw behind him. Really excusing even the systemic rules changes governed throughout the league offices to try to, incentivize Michael Jordan's individual dominance as much as they possibly can. Jason, the main reason, let me really just succinctly summarize this as well I can. The main reason many of us, myself included, believe that Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time is because he won 6 NBA championships in an 8-year pocket of time. And he wasn't even in the NBA for one of the 2 years in between that he did not win. He only played 6 full seasons. In the decade of the 1990s, he won every single season that he was in the NBA for a full year during the 90s, and he did it with one all-star at the time in Scottie Pippen. That's why we think Michael Jordan is the best, because his individual dominance and the way he could impact a team and win championships and essentially deny every other all-time great player, an elite Hall of Famer that was a peer of his during that time, from winning a single thing. That's something that LeBron James has just never been able to do. And look, LeBron's been in the league for 21 years, 20 qualified full seasons. He's only won consecutive championships one time in 21 years. Michael Jordan won 2 three-peats. Jason, there's been 3 total three-peats in the modern era of NBA basketball dating back to the 1976 ABA-NBA merger. That's 50 years of material, and we have 3 teams ever that have won 3 consecutive championships. The Shaq-Kobe Lakers from 2000 to 2002, and then Jordan the 2 times, basically back-to-back in the 90s. It was just so incredibly dominant, so much above anything we had seen, and he did it while, yes, from an individual standpoint, leading the NBA in scoring every year. In 13 qualified seasons, Michael Jordan led the NBA in scoring, Jason, 10 times. 10 out of 13 qualified seasons, including 10 straight. Will Chamberlain has 7 scoring crowns. No one else in league history has 4. LeBron James has 1 in 21 years. Any which way you slice it, there is no way that you can get LeBron James on the level of Michael Jordan. And the revisionism that we're seeing, I mean, that Tom Haberstroh article, if none of your listeners have read it, or many probably haven't, it's like 10,000 words. It takes like 40 minutes to read this article, all in a way to somehow throw a little bit of shade on just one element of Jordan's legacy, which is the Defensive Player of the Year award. But he was an elite defender otherwise. He has 9 All-NBA first-team selections. That's tied most all-time, along with Kevin Garnett, Gary Payton, and Kobe Bryant. In 13 qualified seasons, 9 first-team All-NBA defensive selections. LeBron had 5 in 21 years. LeBron hasn't been an All-NBA defensive team selection in 10 full seasons right now. So really, the pathetic revisionism aside, it's not working, Jason. That's my main premise. That's my main takeaway of this, and the main message I want to impart to you and your listeners. No matter which way you want to cut it, no matter what selective stats you want to take, Jordan is always going to clear LeBron at this point. There is nothing. LeBron hasn't done enough in 21 years, substantially more time than Jordan played, and he can't do enough from this point to the end of his career that he can get anywhere close to the legacy of Michael Jordan. And that's the bottom line.
Cap, on that note, I'm going to let you go. Great job. Thank you as always. We'll play some tomorrow, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I just want